From Sprint to Lowe's to DuPont to Dodge, back when they used to be in NASCAR. Sponsors are a huge part of the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series and the culture as a whole. But coming up this week on Four Tires and Fuel, we look at why having the NRA, the National Rifle Association, sponsoring a major NASCAR event was such a big deal. We'll take a look at that and preview this week's upcoming race. Financially, sponsors are a huge part of the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. Notice the name I just said, NASCAR Sprint Cup Series. That sponsorship by Sprint Nextel has brought major dollars to the sport, and other sponsorships through NASCAR sponsors in terms of races, vehicle sponsors, and other branding has brought in tremendous amounts of revenue for the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series and its lower series as a whole. Sponsorship in terms of auto racing is nothing new. It's a part of F1, IndyCar, NHRA, any form of racing you see, there's advertising and sponsorships. And it also transcends other sports. But right now we're focusing on NASCAR, because an issue developed and concerns arose from fans and even politicians about having the NRA sponsor a major NASCAR race. This is the first time that this organization has sponsored a NASCAR race, and they decided to do it at the Texas Motor Speedway this past week. Many people took to social media using Twitter and Facebook to voice their displeasure or support for the NRA in terms of having them support this race. Even one politician in Washington asked Fox to not show the broadcast and even suggested that people should boycott the race because the NRA is sponsoring this. Some people felt it was in poor taste to have the NRA sponsoring such a major public event, and also some asked that NASCAR not allow the NRA to even be part of the race. NASCAR stood its ground on the position and decided to have them sponsor a race anyway. I personally agree with this statement. Having a company come in and sponsor a race should not be based on a major sporting organization's personal beliefs. Your personal beliefs should not impact business. NASCAR is a business. It's a growing business. And they were approached by a prospective business who wanted to have their name associated with their brand. That's no different than having Office Depot, Staples, Mobile One, any of these other major companies be part of NASCAR. These brands want their name visible to millions of people at any given time. The thousands in attendance and also the millions watching at home. It's an advertising opportunity that works for both sides. One side gets their name out there, the other side generate revenue from it as well. NASCAR did it right by not allowing itself to fall to the pressure of some and give in by not allowing the NRA to sponsor a race. I felt that all this hype around the NRA sponsoring a race distracted away from the true meaning of what was going on in Texas. Another race in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series schedule. That was more the storyline going into this race, not about the tremendous speeds being put up by the new Generation 6 cars or the domination held by Kyle Busch. It was all about having a single name and a single company associated with a major Sprint Cup Series event. I think that that's not good. We should be focused on the racing on the track, and it should be a cooperation between the racing on the track and the companies that are sponsoring these races. Their names are being made a part of it. When companies like Aaron's, Rent-A-Own, Toyota, Centurion Boats, when these companies sign on, what they're doing is they're putting their name, associating it with the racing at that track. So, I think if the NRA or any other organization wants to sponsor a race, as they're doing it within the correct ways that NASCAR permits them to do so, they should do it. And I don't think it should be a major headline like it was for the last several days in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series and in other forms of media across the world and social media and on television as well. It should be purely about the racing. NASCAR racing action will be taking place in Kansas Speedway this weekend, one of the fast cookie-cutter tracks on the Sprint Cup Series schedule. The racing here is always very interesting toward the end, because usually it comes down to fuel strategy, who has saved enough to make it to the finish line. It's never a dull moment there toward the end of the races, so we'll be seeing probably a little more fuel strategy as we go into the later stages of this race. The two drivers I think will do the best there is actually Matt Kenseth in the 20 car. Roush has always seemed to have something up its sleeve when he raced there, and I think he's going to take that knowledge to Joe Gibbs Racing. The drivers always perform well at the track, and overall I think he's probably going to get his chance for another top 5, and I think even he might get that win. The other driver I think who has a chance of winning is Tony Stewart. Tony Stewart is the driver who I always pick because now we're starting to get into those warmer months toward the middle of the season where he really starts to turn it on. I think Kansas is the perfect chance for him to go ahead and start to light that fire under him for a spring to summertime run. But we'll find all this out coming up on Sunday. And of course, you'll have another few days of videos coming out with Brandon Lee, Eric Webler, and Brian Nolan, all posting their videos over the next few days. Hope you found my video interesting. Of course, you can follow us on Twitter at 4TiresAndFuel. Visit the Facebook page, www.facebook.com/4TiresAndFuel. You can follow me on Twitter at It's the Soup. That's all I have to say on upcoming races and discussing the topic that matters to me the most in NASCAR today. I'll be heading out and I'll be thinking of something else even more interesting to talk to you about next week here on 4 Tires and Fuel. For the whole gang, I'm Mike Campbell. Have a great day and I'll see you at the racetrack.